What's up, my man? Hope you're doing good today. If you're watching this very specific video today, it means me and you, we have a call booked in the calendar sometime this week. Or you've just discovered my YouTube channel, my Instagram, my TikTok, and you've officially discovered me as a dating coach. Now, if that's the case, my man, I already know a couple of things about you. I know that you're single and that you're a man, but I also know that you're probably into personal development. You've got a good career. Your finances are in order. You go to the gym. You take care of yourself. And to every definition on paper, you are a high value man, but your dating life is not reflecting that. So in this video, I'm going to show you a guy similar to yourself who also looked like a high value man on paper, but did not have the dating life to follow. I'm going to show you the exact process and where he started out and where he ended up with our coaching, which was dating success, and the exact process that we took step by step to get him to that point. So by the end of the video, you're going to see that specific process and how you could implement it into your own life immediately so you could start to see those same results that he also was able to achieve. Let's get into it. So when I first got to know Niel and he officially started working with me, he was just like every other guy nowadays, right? He had the confidence at work. He was working on himself. He had been going through personal development. But the only thing that he had to show for it in his dating life was going on the dating apps and swiping his life away, right? And the matches that he found on the dating apps, they weren't suitable to him. He was going through this process hoping that it was going to reignite his dating life, but it just wasn't. But when it came down to meeting women in person and actually having these fruitful relationships and being able to go out and do his thing, he was avoiding the exact women that he wanted to talk to day in and day out. And there was one specific story that he told me very early on in the process where after a long, hard week of work, he would go out with his buddies and they would go to pubs together. So he'd walk into these pubs. And as soon as he walked into the pub, he would have the nice outfit on. And as soon as he would walk in, he would see women that he actually found really, really attractive. And as he was going to the table with his friends. He was going and just trying to, get out of his head, get into a nice flow. These women would look at him. And he wouldn't make any moves because every time this woman would look at him, he felt almost like this invisible barrier. Like he wanted it. It was within reach to go and start these conversations and talk to these women. But he just couldn't do it. He was frozen. He was frozen in ice. And you have to think, like, after going into a night like this, telling yourself, yeah, I'm going to go out, I'm going to talk to women, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then not seeing yourself do it, knowing you could have, it just chips away at you. And for Niel specifically, he was just avoiding the women he wanted because of this invisible barrier, right? And even when he did get into conversation with women, he was crippled by his own thoughts. He ended up being embarrassed to put himself out there. And to chip away at that invisible barrier, what he would do is he would just go to the bar and just buy a bunch of drinks and hope that that would make things feel better. But here's the thing. When you take them outside of that setting and you put them on a street, you're not going to have that alcohol. You're not going to have that assistance. And it started to chip away at Niel of like, why do I need this assistance? Why can't I just be the guy that could go and get what he wants and actually take that action? Right? So as a result, he felt like he was stuck in this cycle of disappointment. And because he was only relying on the dating apps, he ended up having one date in 6 months. So for the entire year of 2025, he had one singular date to show for it. And this is a guy that was going through, he had graduated university, he had been on a journey of personal development, he had wanted a better dating life, he had wanted to meet more women, but he had one date in 6 months to show for it. Now it's chipping away at him. So moving into the rest of this, Niel, he understood what was holding him back. He understood that he was dealing with issues, right? Similar to yourself, you probably realize that you have an invisible barrier, that you don't have the confidence, that you have some sort of anxiety, you're always overthinking it in your head with women. He felt the same way, right? He felt that awkwardness. He felt that embarrassment. Things were tough. He was spiraling in his head. There were doubts going on. He was trying to fight this fight. He even mentioned, and these are real DMs we had in some of our first conversations, where he said he had the approach anxiety, the confidence, and the overthinking. And although he knew that he had issues, he still didn't know exactly what he needed to do to be able to solve them. Shit, he probably told himself, is there even a way to solve this? So that's exactly what we were able to do together, is figure out through a process exactly how he was able to move past this and start becoming the man that he wanted to be. Now, he went from this man to after. Okay, being able to approach over 60 women and landing dates and numbers every single week. Crazy. This is through our time together. He attended a speed dating event in London where he left with 5 numbers and had dates lined up for the next couple of weeks. After that, he actually had to go and continue to travel to London. He does not live in London, so he had to continue to travel out there to maintain these dates. Okay, having zero fear of approaching the most attractive women that he could find. Okay, usually with guys, and this is why I quoted this, usually with guys, the more attractive the woman, the more hesitancy that they feel. With Niel, he actually flipped that script. He took himself from having that approach anxiety to now getting more excited to approach women the more attractive that they were. And this is a real quote. We were on a call the other day. That's why I decided to put this in there, man. But at the end of the day, he's able to line himself up with the dating options, meeting all of these women and having full capability of doing so whenever he wants. Full control and confidence in his social and dating life. And that goes with him wherever he is in the world. He could move to Australia tomorrow. He still could do the same things for himself. He could move to Florida tomorrow. It's the same story. And most importantly, as I'll get into in a moment, he was able to completely step into his new identity of being the guy. Okay, now, more importantly for Niel, you have to understand, he was going through these moments of that anxiety where he would go and he had this invisible barrier. So imagine how he felt to look at his old self and look at his new self, and to be able to go into those same pubs where he just had this invisible barrier. You would see the women he wanted within his reach, but he just wasn't able to get it done. To being able to see his same self, the same guy he sees in the mirror, be more excited to go and approach the most attractive woman in the bar and do it every single time, giving himself a shot. Imagine how that felt for him, and imagine how that transcended the way that he viewed himself when he looked into that mirror. Now, you're probably watching this and you're like, all right, this is great for Niel, and obviously he went through a process, but how can that process help me? What specifically did we do with Niel so that he actually made that shift and got to that point? So I'm going to get to that in a moment. Now, before we do, go ahead and pause this. This just goes over more of Niel's success during this process, and you can really start to see the old comparison to the new comparison of the shifts that Niel was able to make. Okay, so first things first with Niel, you have to understand that we understood what his issues were. We knew that he had the lack of confidence. We knew that he had the approach anxiety. We knew that he had that barrier with women. But that's just the start. We still had to figure out what exactly was causing those things to happen. Why was this a pattern that he was dealing with for pretty much his entire life? And that's exactly what we found out, is that when you went back into Niel's life, he never really felt like the man. He went through high school, he went through university, and he didn't have the dating success. He didn't have the experiences. He always had that invisible barrier in his life. And that carried over when he wanted to be more of an intentional dater, go through personal development. He's got the career. He wants to add more women into his life. He figured that with age, this would just disappear, but that wasn't the case. It was still lingering in the background from all of those experiences, those rejections, those embarrassments that he grew up with, him not feeling like the man. Those things were still rearing its ugly head in the form of approach anxiety, lack of confidence, and not taking action with the women that he wanted. So that's exactly what we discovered together through the first part of this, which is the discovery phase. Okay, so he said that he felt that feeling of awkwardness and embarrassment going through his head, feeling like being stuck in a cycle. He would tell himself before he approached women, I'll wait until I have a few more drinks before I approach. This told us that Niel was trying to avoid the man that he was that day. He was trying to be somebody else in the form of alcohol. Imagine what that does to you. You know that you want to go out and make moves, but you need a heavy crutch just to feel like the man. Niel didn't want to do that shit anymore. So what we figured out together through this discovery phase was that Niel was a victim to his own mindset and his own beliefs. Each time he wanted to approach a woman, his mind would tell him the exact narrative that he needed to hear to stop himself in his tracks. Again, I'll do it another time. I'll wait until I have a few more drinks. It feels awkward, embarrassing going up to her. What if it goes wrong? All these thoughts, his mind was telling him the exact story he needed to hear to just stay exactly where he was. And when we dug deeper, we realized this had been a cycle for over 10 years. He did not have the dating success growing up. He went through embarrassing moments. He went through rejections. This was following him for his entire life, even outside of his career success. Women reminded him of that 10-year-old, 15-year-old version of himself, even 20-year-old version of himself in college who just did not feel like the man. So he never viewed himself as the guy who could go out and achieve dating success. And his fears and inaction with women constantly reminded him of that every single day. So what we did, and we understand this because this is something that so many guys go through, we had to figure out a way that he could go from being that old guy and holding on to that old identity to being the exact type of man that he wanted to be. And that's exactly what we did with this process. So first thing we did after we discovered why these things were happening for him, we started by getting crystal clear on his vision of the man that he wanted to be, not just the man that he was. Again, when he would go out, he was operating in this man that wasn't good enough for him. He wasn't attractive to women. He wasn't attractive to himself. He didn't have the confidence. So we needed to align him with a version of him that was actually didn't have that invisible barrier, that was able to go out and attract women with his energy, with his confidence, with his radiance. That's what he needed to be. He felt like he was lost at sea with no direction, knowing he wanted to change, but he had no idea how. He had this cycle of embarrassment, feeling stuck, hesitating, no dating success. That was a part of his identity of who he thought he was. So what we did was we aligned him with the guy who didn't suffer those problems, didn't have the approach anxiety, didn't have the confidence issues. So he knew through this process of aligning him with his future self, he knew the exact environments, behaviors, skills, and values of the man he wanted to be and started taking action. So this process became not just about attracting more women, but it also became about becoming his dream self. Because Niel knew that the version of himself that he wanted to be, he would do things differently than the current man that he was now. That's the secret sauce that ended up happening for Niel. This dream self that we envisioned, he had the women, he had the confidence, he had the identity that Niel had wanted for 10 years. So all we had to do was figure out further into this process how we're going to bridge that gap. Even you watching this video, this could be the same thing as you. You've watched yourself pick up all of these things, these rejections, these lack of confidence issues. And when you see a woman across the bar, you see a woman in public, you get reminded of this guy. You get reminded that you're not exactly where you want to be. And Niel felt that same way. That's exactly why we went through this exact process to align him with the man that he wanted to be. So after that, we had to figure out the process of exactly how we were going to bridge the gap between who he was and who he wanted to be. So when it came to approaching women, what we figured was the best route for Niel was the 14-day desensitization phase to eliminate his approach anxiety, which was that invisible barrier with women. Now, we didn't throw Niel into the deep end. We didn't throw Niel into a pit of 100 women and say, hey, bro, hopefully you could swim in there, have fun. That would just only, reignite the way that Niel already felt. So we had to figure out a different way to go about it. So what we did was similar to the gym. We started small and we ended big. Niel began taking small steps of action with women, and with each win, he stopped hesitating. His negative thoughts got quiet and his confidence grew, and he started attracting women. Because you got to think, he has that invisible barrier with himself. So each win that he would take with women in low pressure situations, that would build to his confidence. He would want to go out and do more and do more and do more. And every single time that he saw himself win with women, those negative thoughts and those excuses, they walked out of the door. Okay. And as a result, you got to think to yourself, As Niel is going out and seeing himself do these things in real time, taking this action, gaining these wins with women, when he looks in the mirror, he's becoming the man that we envision himself to be. He's doing things of the man that he wants to be instead of the man that he was. So this brought out that confidence. He saw himself as a different version of himself, and women saw the same thing. One that had full confidence in himself. There was a different man in the mirror. And every approach that Niel had came with an extra motivation. Didn't just come from, let me get the most results that I could get with women. Let me bang the most amount of chicks. It also came with, I'm doing this for the future version of Niel. And this 14-day desensitization process allowed him to do exactly that. Eliminate his approach anxiety completely and take him from, I have stage fright with women, to I want to do more. I want to go and approach the most attractive woman that I come across each and every day. That's very powerful. And as a result of this, his confidence, his identity, everything grew, and the dating options came flooding in. And this is the exact process you could implement into your own life so that you gain that same confidence and you align yourself with that future man as well. Now, Niel, in this process, the most important thing that we want to really highlight here is that because of this process, Niel finally felt like the man. Each and every win that he was able to gain with women, he eliminated that invisible barrier. The floodgates opened, and there was nothing holding him back from going out and attracting the women that he wanted to attract. You can see here on the left exactly how he felt in this moment. Now, for yourself, particularly, dating really comes down to two specific things. The truth is this, my man. You are not operating like the CEO. You are not operating like the guy that's got the 6 figures in his bank account or the guy that has the really good career that's into the personal development. When you're around the women that you want, one of two things are happening. Either you're still acting and in alignment with the guy that you've always been your entire life, the guy that didn't have the dating success, the guy that, maybe he went through a transformation. Maybe you're still aligning with the chubby guy or somebody that had a lack of confidence in the past. You're bringing all that pain and it's affecting you right now. Or you're the guy who you just don't have the structure. You don't have the systems to go out and attract women through conversation. You don't have that skill set to be that emotionally engaging, charismatic conversator that women are naturally going to be drawn to. You don't bring across that emotional energy that women are actually looking for. Now, for yourself, what we need to do for you, and we could do so right down below, we need to book you in for a 15 to 30 minute session. And on that session, what we're going to talk about specifically is this discovery phase. Because none of these other things are ever going to matter. There's no amount of YouTube videos that you're going to watch. There's no amount of tip videos that you're going to watch that are actually going to work if deep down you're still dealing with these issues that are stemming from root problems such as you operating like the 15 or the 20-year-old guy that just didn't have the dating success. Because one thing that I know about women, and I've seen it a million times, they are attracted to guys that feel like the man, that have no remorse in who they are. And you cannot be that guy if you're still operating from the past, my man. None of these other things like knowing what to say, how to escalate, and how to flirt are actually going to work if these things are still a problem in the background. So my friend, you know exactly what you need to do. 15 to 30 minute session, completely free, nothing to sell you, just this call on exactly gaining that insight so we could flash that light on exactly what you're dealing with and exactly what's holding you back so that you could get into step 1 of actually fixing this problem that's been affecting you for so long. See you soon, my man.